morning. Um, Madam Clerk, I don't know if I don't think the right word is swear in, but can we appoint Councilman Chris Harsh pro temp? Okay. All right. Today is Monday, October 21st, 2024. I'm calling the Municipal Services and Properties Committee to order. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Bishop.
Here.
Starr.
Here.
Harrison. Jones. Casey. Kelly. Moore. Here. Harsh.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a call.
All right, Madam Clerk, Councilman Casey will be tardy this morning. Everybody else is, you can just mark them as appropriate. All right, let's call up our guests. Do we have any guests from Ohio City? We call those up first.
Front and center?
Yeah, I'll just read it and I'll do a quick.
What,
Okay.
what number is this piece?
This is 989?
1078.
1078? Oh, yeah, 1078, sorry. 1078.
All right. First, I just want to note that the early start this morning was because we have something scheduled. We have an operational review scheduled at 11 o'clock, so we did get a early start. So that's the reason by this why we are starting a little early today. So this is ordinance number 1078, 2024. This is by Councilmember McCormick. This is an emergency ordinance authorizing the director of the Department of Public Works, Division of Recreation, to enter into a grant agreement with Ohio City Incorporated to provide program support for Near West recreation youth programs. Okay. Does this have, first of all, does this have an executive summary?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Uh,
Yeah, I can provide this. Probably this one. It's a little more summary. There you go.
Okay, just hold on. Let me
Sorry.
find this executive summary here. I'm sorry.
I've emailed this out too.
So through the chair, it's a grant, it's like a summary of the grant proposal.
Okay, so we don't have an executive summary?
No, the ordinance is pretty self-explanatory. It's basically just a grant agreement for Near West Rec, and so the grant proposal has more of the details.
Okay. All right. So who's going to speak on this behalf of this legislation? Attorney, are you going to speak?
Through the chair, I can summarize just what the ordinance does, and then Carrie Palmer's here from Ohio City Inc. and Near West Rec to explain the grant proposal.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so like you said, this just authorizes a grant agreement that will go to Ohio City Incorporated to support their Near West Rec programs for the program year 2024 to 2025. And this money, we worked with Austin Davis and Finance on this because this money was already appropriated in the 2024 budget. So it's kind of one where we're trying to get this out the door so that they can use the funds to complete their 2024 and some for the 2025 season.
Okay.
Carrie, explain more.
Okay.
Give me give a quick summary of
go
our
ahead.
work. Yeah,
Yeah, go
so we serve the near west side of Cleveland, so not just Councilman McCormick's ward, but we also serve Metro West CDC, which is Clarkville and Stockyards, Brooklyn Center, as well as Detroit Sherway, Cadell and Edgewater, the Northwest Neighborhood CDC. It's a year-round recreation league. We serve close to 1,400 kids. We provide affordable recreation opportunities for kids from baseball, softball, basketball, track, lacrosse, soccer, and volleyball, with additional one-off clinics, special events, family nights on the Near West Side.
Okay, where does this all take place?
So we just have an office, so we use City of Cleveland Parks, and we also use a lot of church and community centers in our area.
Okay, so it's various locations.
Yep.
All right. Is there any questions on ordinance number 1078, 2024? Councilman Harsh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say my kids use Near West Rec, Mr. Chair, so they also reach into Old Brooklyn. It is a low-cost, no-cost program. There are lots of children who don't pay at all, and they welcome everyone. They bring everyone in. It is one of the most fantastically well-run programs I've ever seen on the west side of Cleveland. Ms. Palma is a saint amongst us and ought to be commended for the work that she does, because she does it efficiently, effectively, and diligently. And I've never actually met you in person, I don't think. I
Nice to meet
apologize. But that's what workers do, right? They get out there, they do the job, they pop their head up when they need to take care of business. And I want to just thank you for all the things you do for the young people of Cleveland.
Thanks.
All right, thank you, Councilman Harsh. I was getting worried. We didn't have anybody to vouch for this program. I was getting worried.
Yeah, we've been doing it for about 10 years now, so.
All right, is there any other questions on ordinance number 1078, 2024? All right, seeing no further questions, ordinance 1078 is approved. Please sign it. Thank you.
Thank you. I like it. Efficient.
All right, you might as well stay here, right?
We got two more pieces. You want to do the lose? That's 1062.
Okay. Ordinance number 1062, 2024. This is by council members House Jones, Bishop, and Griffin. This is a departmental request. It's an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Works to accept a donation of 3 single-unit public restroom structures from the Campus District, Inc., a community development corporation for the general public use to be installed by the Department of Public Works. Okay.
To
All
the
right.
chair, we have a guest that he has not yet arrived yet. Would you be willing to defer to the next piece first?
Well,
Or should we go ahead?
all right, we're going to do this one last.
Okay, that's fine.
So
Thank
what's
you,
the
sir.
next one, Director?
Mr. Lamis.
989.
Okay, ordinance number 989, 2024. This is by council members Marr, Bishop, and Griffin. This is a departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Works to enter into one or more agreements with the State of Ohio Department of Transportation to provide general routine maintenance and repair of a portion of State Route 176 for a period of 1 year. Okay, Director.
Thank you, Chair. This piece is a piece that it's a normal business, what we do with the state of Ohio, with ODOT. So I have with me here Commissioner Scott, who can give you more details on the actual agreement itself. But this is something that once 176 was in place, ODOT actually does the maintenance for us. Back in the old days, we kind of bartered with them. But more recently, we've changed it to now it's a structured agreement where they do the maintenance for us and we pay them. So I have Commissioner Scott here to talk more about any questions that you may have about this piece.
So the barter that we did with the Department of Transportation from back in the day, we didn't find that to be advantageous.
Our law department said it needed to be formally structured better. So it wasn't a formal structure. It was just kind of do this and we'll kind of give you some salt. And that was a while ago. So now it needs to be a formal agreement. That's why we're here now. Well, it's been actually, we've had this agreement for probably a couple of years now. So this is probably our second or third iteration of it.
Okay, all right. All right, Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, to the council, yeah, this is just simply formalizing our agreement with ODOT for the snow removal, snow and ice control, and also the highway maintenance of Route 176, commonly known as the Jennings Freeway. We've been in this agreement with ODOT since the inception of the Jennings Freeway, and as the director mentioned, it was just a gentleman's agreement, for lack of a better term, and we give them X amount of tons of salt in exchange for snow and ice control and maintenance services. ODOT changed its business practice recently, I think in the last 2 or 3 years, and they want us to just do this through the legislative process and also to formalize the agreement and the amount that we're paying.
Okay, so the cost of this agreement, is that in this, that's not in this legislation?
Yeah, the cost, I think it's on the executive summary, it's $71,214 for the whole year, which is equals about $5,900 a month.
$5,900 a month?
Yes, sir.
And this is paid for,
This is paid for out of the Division of Streets operating budget.
okay, so the, it says the cost of this agreement or agreements authorized shall be paid from Fund Number 11 SF 401 and other funds approved by the Director of Finance. So this, okay, all right. All right, is there any questions on ordinance number 989, 2024? I know we do this every year.
Yes, sir.
All right, any questions? Seeing no further questions, ordinance number 989, 2024 is approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. You done? Okay. All right, now we have MOCAP. Okay, all right. 1010, okay. All right. Ordinance number 1010, 2024. This is by Council Members Harrison, Bishop, and Griffin. This is a departmental request. It's an emergency ordinance approving the report of the Assessment Equalization Board on objections concerning estimated assessments to design, inspect, reconstruct, repair, and/or install roadways, sidewalks, driveway aprons, curves, including adjustments of casings and landscape, if necessary, encroaching into upon the public right-of-way on Euclid Beach Boulevard and East 159th Street, determined to proceed with improvements and adopting the equalized assessment. Okay, all right, Director, what does all of that mean?
Mr. Chairman, so this is related to the assessment process that we have to reconstruct Euclid Beach Boulevard and East 159th Street in the Collinwood neighborhood. And an assessment process is set by the codified ordinances, and there are many pieces of legislation, whether they're resolutions or ordinances that need to come before council. And so this particular ordinance is essentially approving what the Assessment Equalization Board concluded. Our last resolution was to establish the members of that Assessment Equalization Board and to set a date for their hearing. And essentially what their charge is to do is to make sure that our assessment is fair and equal to all of the abutting property owners, and that the assessed value is based upon the frontage, the the linear feet of their frontage. And so that Assessment Equalization Board met on August 13th, 2024. They reviewed the estimated assessments, and they concluded that, with no objections, that the assessments as presented by the city are fair and equal and should be approved. And so this ordinance, this 1010-2024 ordinance, is accepting the Assessment Equalization Board's report. This is the last ordinance that we need before construction happens. So once we pass this, we'll be able to move forward with construction in the springtime. It's about $1 million project, and after we're done with construction, there's more legislation required by the codified ordinances, so we'll be back to you to sort of button up the actual costs versus the estimated costs. And as a reminder, the reason the reason we have to rebuild these streets is that they were not built to the city standards by a private developer back in, I think, the 80s, and we documented that with a letter from the then city engineer. Fast forward to the present, different people own the properties around it, and they're looking for the streets to be paved and maintenance taken over by the city instead of maintenance currently being handled by the private owners.
So, Director, you say somebody built this street in the 80s, a private person?
Was it 80s? Yes, sir. So when the towers were built, so there are multiple housing towers that were built on the former Euclid, what's it called? Euclid Beach, the carnival site. When those towers were built, these roads were built to access the housing towers, but they weren't built to the city standards. And so that means that if somebody builds a road and they intend to dedicate it and have the city maintain it, if they're not built to the city standards, the city will not maintain that roadway because it wasn't built to the city standards. So we documented that back then. Many years later now, we have different owners that are looking for the city to maintain those roadways.
Okay. All right. This is Councilman Harrison's ward. Councilman Harris, you have a comment on this?
Councilman Palencic.
Oh, it's Councilman Palencic?
Yes.
Yeah, it's Councilman Pleasant Ward.
Okay. All right. I thought that last night when I was reading this.
Yeah.
It has Harrison's name on it. All right.
Oh.
It doesn't have
Coming to
Palencic's
DPS.
name on it.
Mr. Chairman, we've been working closely with Councilman Palencic to get this process completed. It's been, a couple years in the making, so we've been working closely with him, and he does support it.
Okay. All right. Is there any questions on ordinance number 1010, 2024? No questions on 101024? All right, seeing no further questions on 101024 is approved, please sign.
So, Councilman, we have 958. We have that one, too. Not that one, the next one, I think.
Resolution number 958, 2024 by Councilmember Starr, Bishop, and Hairston by departmental request, an emergency resolution declaring the intent to vacate the remaining portion of Sherman Court. Okay. All right, Director.
Mr. Chairman, Sherman Court is, it's only about, it's very short street that comes off of East 75th Street, just south of Quincy Avenue. And MEMA Partners, which is a developer, owns the land around it, and they have requested that the city vacate this unimproved remaining portion of Sherman Court so that they can have the full site for redevelopment. And again, this is just very short court that isn't improved and doesn't lead to anything but the owner's property. And we do have the support of Mr. Councilman Starr.
All right. Is there any questions on resolution number 958, 2024? Councilman Starr.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Director DeRosa, for working with this. Only question I will have is, once we pass this out of committee, it does go to DPS, and then it go back to possibly finance, and then come back to a Monday night for the final passage. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, the Councilman, that's correct.
All right, just wanted to make sure. Thank you. Just in case the owner reach out to me to make sure they know exactly where we are at with this process. Thank you for working with us on this.
All right. Is there any other questions on ordinance number 958, 2024? All right. Seeing no further questions, ordinance 958, 2024 is approved. All right. Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
Okay. Ordinance number 991, 2024. This is by Council Member McCormick. To amend Section 5 514.04 of the codified ordinance of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976, as enacted by ordinance number 243-11, passed May 9th, 2011, and sections 514.01, 514.02, and 514.07, enacted by ordinance number 884-10, passed August 18, 2010, relating to temporary occupancy permits for streetscape amenities in the public right-of-way and fees for bicycle rack permits. Okay. All right. You here to speak on behalf of Councilman McCormick?
Yes, thank you, Chair. You do have a legislative summary on your tablets. And this ordinance amends Chapter 514 to prospectively exempt bicycle racks from permit application fees and renewal fees. It does not exempt them from insurance, indemnification, and other requirements. It specifically amends the section to provide that no permit application fee or renewal fee shall be required for only bicycle racks. The current permit application fee is $160 and the annual renewal fee is $110. Chapter 514 provides permit requirements and regulations for issuance of temporary public right-of-way occupancy permits for many streetscape amenities, including bicycle racks. City Council and the city promote bicycle use for transportation and recreation as evidenced by passage of the Complete and Green Streets Ordinance number 370, 2022, and the city's Climate Action Plan. The city wants to encourage more Clevelanders to ride bikes and businesses to provide bicycle racks for their use. And this ordinance furthers that purpose.
Okay. All right. The guest is,
Sure.
Oh, and yes, so this is Jenna Thomas from Bike Cleveland to talk about more specifically about the purpose.
oh yeah, we met before, right?
Yes, hello.
Yeah. How
Thank you,
doing?
Chair, for having me. My name is Jenna Thomas. I'm the Advocacy and Policy Manager at Bike Cleveland. Something we hear a lot from bicycle riders is it's a bad feeling when you ride your bike to a local business and there's no place to lock your bicycle. And we also hear from businesses in the city of Cleveland who come to us to purchase bicycle racks that these fees are a barrier to installing bike parking. Often these fees, which are $160 initially and then $110 every year, that can be more expensive than the bike rack itself. Especially with all of the great infrastructure coming to the city of Cleveland over the next few years, with the Superior Midway and the future Lorraine Midway and all of the upgrades to our bike infrastructure that we're doing. I think it's really important to complement that with secure bicycle parking frequently in the city of Cleveland. We also found that between June 2023 and June 2024, there was only one permit pulled for secure bike parking using this permit, but we do know that more bike parking is going in. We see a lot of value in knowing where the bike racks are going to ensure they comply with accessibility standards and things like that. And we think that these fees are definitely a reason that people are not actually getting permits. So we're hoping to encourage people to get permits, and encourage people to install bike parking, and make biking easier in Cleveland.
So to kind of recap, you said only one permit was applied for in the prior year?
Correct.
So we're going to have a whole bunch of folks apply for bike racks this year, right, now that the fees are?
Well, we're hoping so, but
Okay.
also we know that people are installing bike racks without the permits.
Okay, all right. Is there any questions on ordinance 991, 2024? Councilman Kelly.
Thank you, through the chair, to the milady. So we still know that where bike racks are going, right? Just nobody has to pay for them.
Through the chair to the councilman, yes. We're hoping that this actually encourages people to let us know where they're installing bike parking so we can make sure that there's the right clearance in the sidewalk, that it's going in the right location, it's not interfering with utilities. Because right now people are just installing them without the permits because of these high fees.
I appreciate that. I think you're correct. I know my aide's a bicycle rider, and he says the same thing. So thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilman Kelly. Any other questions on ordinance number 991, 2024? Seeing no further questions, ordinance 991, 2024 is approved. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Here. So is the guest here? Okay.
My apologies.
Ordinance number 1062, 2024, by council members House, Jones, Bishop, and Griffin. This is the Department of Request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Works to accept the donation of 3 single-unit public restroom structures from Campus District, Inc., a community development corporation for general public use to be installed by the Department of Public Works. Okay? All right, Director.
Great, thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Chair, to the committee. We are here today to present to you the legislation to accept 3 public restrooms from Campus District, Inc. It is a donation from them to serve the general public in some of our public spaces around the city. So first, we want to say thank you. Councilman Kerry McCormack and Councilmember Stephanie House-Jones have been large advocates for this particular matter. And we also want to thank our funding and implementation partners. That includes the county. It includes the Cleveland Foundation, who provided the original funding to Campus District through the CARES Act back during pandemic times. Downtown Cleveland, Inc. for their assistance with maintenance strategy, and also Ohio City, Inc. for their early advocacy. So why public toilets? Why public restrooms? Well, there are a couple key reasons that we'd like to highlight. First of all, human dignity. It is our ability to respond to a universal biological need is a basic human right. We consider this a basic human right alongside things like eating and drinking water, and getting the food that we need. So everyone does deserve to have this access without question or purchase. We do want everyone to have full participation in public life. So for those of you who have young children or elders in your family, you know that if you're out in public for a while, even in public spaces and parks, if you're enjoying yourself, there are times when you need to use the restroom, and if there is none available, or if you have to pay to use it, it decreases your chances of staying longer in that space. And this ensures that people of all abilities or all incomes have access to public restrooms, whether they have medical challenges or if they are still finding a home. Livable, walkable communities is our last kind of why. So we want to ensure that people stay in public spaces longer, parks and other areas. Public toilets help us get out of our cars and onto our feet. And we will have a city that is much more comfortable and welcome in places where it's easy to find these facilities. Currently, the city of Cleveland has no free public restrooms outside of what is in the metro parks. So this is our ability and chance to provide some of those. So what is a Portland Loo? That is the model that we are accepting from Campus District, or is proposed to be accepted by Campus District. The Portland Loo is a nationally and internationally celebrated public restroom that focuses on access, safety, and durability. So you can see the design of this particular bathroom is it's freestanding, it's easy to clean. It was designed in Portland, Oregon, who was responding to an increase in homelessness and unhoused population in the wake of the 2008 recession. And it is designed to seamlessly integrate into an urban environment. So you can see that it's made of metal, it's stainless steel, it's gender neutral, it's ADA accessible, and it is easy to clean. So a little bit about the project history. Mr. Mark Lamont from Campus District, he and his colleagues in the CDC world really advocated for this during the COVID-19 pandemic. So during that pandemic time, many restaurants, other locations, they started closing their doors, and that left people who needed to use the restroom without a place to go. So that resulted in an increase in waste problems that we saw in our city. So people were using the bathroom on our streets, and we began to experience more and more of that during the pandemic time. So OCI, Ohio City, Inc., and Campus District put their heads together and they came up with a temporary solution. They ended up hiring and the temporary porta-johns, so the kind that's a trailer that you pull up. And what they did was they tested it out to ensure that there were no problems. And they had 0 incidents throughout the time that they had those out. However, it ended up being very expensive. So hiring those bathroom trailers was very costly for those organizations. So as a solution, through CARES Act funds, the Cleveland Foundation granted to the Campus District, Inc. 4 Portland loos to be installed across the city. So what does this specific legislation do? It allows for the transfer of the ownership of those 3 loos from Campus District, Inc. to the City of Cleveland. One is already in Cuyahoga County. This allows the city to enter a new phase of planning for the installation and maintenance of the loos. Quickly, there are many other cities who have Portland loos, including the city of Portland, who now has over 50. The cities of Columbus and Cincinnati also have installed these public facilities, and Cleveland is now catching up to that process. So a little bit more about the design. Feel free to ask or feel free to take a look here and ask questions if needed, but there are exterior hand washing stations. There are lots of safety features built into this particular model. It has a built-in hose in the back of the unit to allow for cleaning, very easy cleaning. It is hooked up to utilities and allows for hand washing. And then there's also an elegant design that fits the aesthetics of our urban core. We looked at several different locations based on these 4 criteria, including diverse public need, including safety. We wanted to find locations that were highly visible, well-lit, and populated. And then also we wanted to look at where utility lines were coming through and long-term maintenance. These are our intended locations. We are seeking to look at 2 in Canal Basin Park and then 1 in Perk Plaza, which is at the corner of Chester and East 12th Street. Cuyahoga County has submitted permits for their Virgil E. Brown Neighborhood Family Services Center on Payne and, I believe, East 18th Street. A couple more slides about operation maintenance. We will be working with Downtown Cleveland, Inc. to provide the maintenance and cleaning schedule. And then in terms of next steps, once the city has ownership, provided your agreement with this, we will finalize the siting of the structure and coordinate installations with Public Works and the operations cluster, finalize a maintenance contract with partners, and continue to coordinate with public safety on issues related to overall kind of safety precautions, as well as finding a more holistic way to encourage more programming and activity in these sites. So that is all for today. Thank you.
Okay. So you say this is no cost to the city, Director?
That is correct. We are accepting the donation of the loos. Although perhaps Public Works can speak to this, we will need to work on installing the Portland loos, and that would, we do not know yet what the cost is for that.
So this will cost the city after it is to be, because the city has to install it, correct?
That's correct.
So how much will it cost to install this, and who's going to pay for that?
Do you have an answer? Okay. So we are working through the logistics of that with the Chief of Operations and the Public Works Department. Yeah.
To the chair, I can say that we've had some installation where we've had to install plumbing and things like that for instance, at our cemetery, West Park Cemetery, and some of our Ridge Transfer Station, we had to put some trailers out there where we've actually had to install plumbing. So, the cost could be anywhere to, a couple thousand to maybe 30 or 40,000, just depending on how much work we got to do. If we got to break up all of that goes. So, it's not something that we can't overcome. It's just something that we don't exactly know what the costs are because we don't know where things are going. So.
And Mr. Chair, for the Canal Basin Park locations, Canal Basin Park will undergo a construction project, granted that those funds and design progresses, and we will not be installing those loos until construction occurs for that park, and therefore the construction costs would be integrated into the Canal Basin Park location.
Okay, so you mentioned that this is a human right, correct?
That's correct.
So this human right is only in certain neighborhoods, or is this human right in all neighborhoods?
It is in all neighborhoods. It is universally believed, but where we are seeing waste problems right now, as we've observed, is primarily in the downtown core area. So from the campus district area, down through the downtown area and in the flats.
So what about so when is this thing heated?
To the chair, yes, there is an electrical hookup that allows for some heat. It's not going to be super warm in there, but it allows for the pipes to remain heated and so the pipes won't freeze.
So in the event that the pipes freeze, who has to repair that? Is it the city?
Yes, to the chair, that would be the city.
So ultimately, we are getting into the outdoor restroom business. We're going to get into the outdoor restroom business. And also, you mentioned it's a human right, but, other neighborhoods might want toilets also. And, for equality purposes, and to be fair, I mean, we should, and this is going to be a big budgetary concern throughout the city if we have to keep installing public restrooms. So in the wintertime, now who's going to clean this thing every day? I mean, because it's going to need quite a bit of cleaning. Who's going to clean it?
To the chair, we are working with Downtown Cleveland, Inc., who has agreed to work with their special improvement district, and their maintenance plan, is in the slides as presented, and their goal is they are very supportive of this effort to provide public restrooms because of the fact that there have been continued waste problems in the downtown area.
Okay. Is there any questions from the committee on ordinance number 1062? Councilman Starr.
Yes, thank you, Chair. One, I wanted to make sure I asked these couple questions just to make sure we got some clarification. And I believe what is the relationship do we have with the water department as we bring the single restroom structure units? Is there a cost associated with it, dealing with being able to add these on? I know we talked about the model that's out in Portland. Do we have some similarities on what is going to take place as regard with the Public Works Department as well as the Water Department installing these single unit public restrooms? Through the chair.
Through the chair, we have worked with Director Kane to look at where the utility hookups would be, and he is aware of the Portland loos.
And to that point, would there be a cost association with the water? Because I know water isn't free. How are we looking to work with that?
Through the chair, yes, we're aware of that, and that is part of the logistics that we will continue to work on. We've observed that other cities have, installed these, and some of them have a very low cost. And perhaps Mark Lemon, you have worked with the Portland loos more in other locations and observed them more. For us, we are aware that there will be a cost, and we anticipate that cost will not be very large. But Mark, would you like to share a little bit more about that?
Sure. To the chair, we're in contact with our partners in Columbus. They just installed these this past summer, so we're monitoring the cost of them. To the director's point, it does depend on the location. So the one that's in front of the State House has a pretty high cost because it's getting about 600 uses a day. But we will continue to work with them and figure out exactly how much water they're using.
So through the chair, it's safe to say, based on the amount of usage each unit get, that determines the water cost if it's a high cost or low cost. So my question would be then, through the chair, from that cost, do we have a certain budget that we have to be able to pilot it first? Or is this something that we're going to look up and have a high bill and then we're looking to pay for it? How do we work with that, work through that process through the chair?
Thank you, through the chair. Well, the good news is that Cuyahoga County will be installing theirs first. They are installing it at Payne at East 18th Street, which is right outside the Virgil E. Brown Neighborhood Services Center, and we are looking to see what their usage looks like. We are not yet ready to install the 3 loos because of we have not finished the engineering and the siting. However, it's important to our partner that we take the loos off their hands from Campus District and continue our due diligence. So our hope is that we will see what the county's cost will end up being and adjust accordingly and be able to budget accordingly. We are not, we at this point are still doing the due diligence, likely will not be installing in 2025.
Yep.
To the chair, the county will be hooking the loo into the existing building utilities, so they'll be able to watch the meter. It'll actually run through the Virgil Brown building, so we'll have a better idea once they get theirs installed in Q1.
And through the chair, to the table, and the one that the county is installing, that's going to be county-owned and operated? And what's
That's
the actual location where they're installing theirs at?
If you're familiar with Payne and East 18th Street,
Yes.
There is the corner of Payne and East 18th right in front of their building. There's a concrete pad there. So it's kind of between the building edge and the steps there.
Okay, I would definitely ask, have we explored the opportunity of how having these 3 single units become something that the county have? Because when I think of this services, this is something that is part of the human element, and I believe the county does most of the human elements of things, not necessarily the city. Is there ways that we have any discussion with adding these 3 into possibly a budget for them to be able to manage and help with this? Because truth be told, Cleveland is a part of Cuyahoga County, and is there a way, have we explored some different options of trying to have this assignment be something that the county installed and operate themselves for the rest of these additional units? Through the chair.
Through the chair, yes, we've had discussions with the county. I think if we're installing it within the city's public right-of-way or public parks, then, it is the perspective that it should be the city's responsibility. And I would underscore the fact that this is not just for human services and it is for the unhoused population, but it's also for everybody. So it's for families, it's for elders, it's for visitors, it's for anyone who is in our public realm. And therefore, the locations that we intend to place them in should have those audiences and should have a diverse audience. So that is the perspective that the city and county have come down with. And I would like for Mark to comment as well in terms of, of that conversation.
Through the chair, this project's been going on for 4 years, and it was never envisioned just to be 3 or 4 units. This is supposed to be a regional system that we want to build out, but we have to get it started and figure out how it all works. Originally, we envisioned 10 throughout the region, including some of the metro parks. But this is a pilot project, and I think this is not the last of these discussions of how this gets built out.
Thank you. And to the point that I believe the chair brought up is other locations in the city. So I definitely will ask Public Works Department, as well as working with our staff, how many actual park and recreation locations do we have in the city of Cleveland? Because if this model looks good or is a good program, I believe if I have my children out at the playground park area, I definitely will want to be able to use the restroom, not have to rely on whether there's porta potties or something. Is there something that we can explore to look at how much the cost would be to get these at all of our parks and recreation location areas?
So through the chair to the council, and we have anywhere from 150 plus parks, public facilities that the city has. As far as installing, it's always been a question about safety. It's always been a question about maintenance for us, and that's why in the past we have not taken on those. We've had a few areas. I think we just had one installed over by the old I can't remember what it's called, the roller derby over there. Was one over there that was actually, it was a joint project done with the with the utilities and us. So it wasn't a thing that we kind of thought of on our own. It was just something that was put there. There's a lot of thought and a lot of logistics that goes to having those. There's a lot of coordination that has to happen again with safety and with other areas. But I do believe that this has been well thought out. As far as adding those loos to our other areas, that is something strategically we'd have to work out. We really have to think it through. And also with the new director of parks coming in, this is something she'd have to really take a big part in. So I don't want to speak for that director, but I can say from just institutional knowledge, that's been kind of the thing where we've kind of paused on it because of those things.
Yep, and to that point, as I wrap up, Chair, I'm just looking at and exploring the different options because what does this look like compared to porta potties? I know we put porta potties out during seasonal opportunities, but if we're going to have these installed and they're going to be year-round, it's an opportunity for people to have access to public restrooms year-round as opposed to seasonal. So I definitely would like to work with the new director as well as city planning to determine what is the best way to be able to move our city forward, but also making sure our Parks and Recreation has some of the similar opportunities that we're exploring in other parts of the city. So I yield, Chair.
All right, thank you, Councilman Starr. I'm going to go to Councilman Anthony Hairston.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of my questions have been answered in terms of who's going to maintain these units. I'm a little bit concerned, right? I see what happens to the porta potties that are sometimes stationed in our parks, right, in our playgrounds and other areas. Just even when you see them left at job sites, they're turned over. It's a mess on the inside, and so that cleaning is going to be very, very, very important. As we roll this out. I know that the chair asked what is the cost to the city, and it was said there was no cost to the city, and that's in relation to us obtaining these Portland loos. However, I envision some sort of cost if Public Works are going to have to install lines or do some of the maintenance. So I would like to know what that is. I'm sure this committee would like to know what that is. I doubt we're looking to get into a very high, costly project. But we'll have to see. Once we get those numbers. Now, DCA, as we provide funding support for Public Works, not Public Works, Public Square, the maintenance there, are we going to be asked to also provide dollars to offset the costs by DCA to maintain these toilets? So, to the chair.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to yield to Emily Collins.
Through the chair to the councilman, yes, I believe we are being asked to provide maintenance dollars. And I think that is in addition to the Public Square amounts. It may be the case that we are able to negotiate this as part of, special improvement district work. But we're just not at the crossroads yet to make that determination or give you the exact amount. But we are actively in discussions.
Sure.
Yes.
Thank you. And through the chair, I think that's important because it's going to cost us something, right? And we're doing this with many unknowns about construction costs, maintenance costs, and so many other unknowns here. And so, Mr. Chair, I would recommend that any funding around these Portland loos come back to this committee for further approval authorization, that we did not give the administration the authority to just move about with whatever funding is needed to support the installation, maintenance, and upkeep of these Portland loos. I think we all here support the concept, but we just want to be sure about how this is going to work, because while we, as people thought, giving tents to our unhoused, was the right thing to do. In one respect, yes. Another respect, no, because we've seen fires set. We've seen people die and be suffocated under those tents because those are not made to live in day to day. You just don't want to see those type of tragic incidents happen with these units here as well. And I think, through the chair, a conversation should be had with the police department. Not sure where you all are with the police department or the downtown services unit, because this falls within their services unit area. And who's going to monitor those? Are we going to have time limits on the uses of these Portland loos? Who's going to monitor that, maintain it outside of the cleaning hours that DCA is there to clean? They have eyes there during a period of time during the days. But what happens after folks are going home and nobody's paying attention, and it's through the night, and sometimes you do have on a good night folks from in town and out of town who will walk the streets of downtown and throughout the night, sightseeing, kind of just getting a feel of the city. Who's going to make sure that these stalls does not become temporary homes for individuals throughout the days and throughout the nights? Through the chair.
Through the chair to the council member, we are aware that Chief Todd is supportive of this, as there are human waste problems that we are seeing on the streets right now, and so from a philosophical perspective, they are supportive. When it comes to time and usage, you'll notice on the design of the loos that you can actually see kind of through the bottom part of it to see if there are individuals on the interior, and then there's also openings at the top to kind of allow both for airflow as well as it's not completely soundproof, so you can get a sense of if there's an individual on the interior and for how long. It is also continues to be private though, so it's kind of a best of both worlds when it comes to having a unit that creates privacy, but also you can sense if there's something, unsavory happening on the interior. When it comes to, maintenance, I would say that DCI is one of the best partners for that because they are out so many hours during the day. And in particular, one site that we are intending to look at, which is Park Plaza, not final yet, but it is right across the street from the Downtown Cleveland Inc. Auxiliary office. So they have a clean and safe ambassador office right across the street from that particular location. If that helps answer the question.
Sure. Thank you. And as I wrap up, Mr. Chair, I know that the last evening cleaning for the summer hours is 7 p.m., winter hours is 6 p.m. There's a lot that can happen between 7 p.m. and 8 a.m. the next morning. So we need to really think through, who's going to monitor, maintain these facilities from that 7 p.m. to 8 a.m. I get what you all are trying to do. I think it's an admirable thing. However, we have to make sure that it's done right. Yeah. And we don't set ourselves up for something that none of us here want to see happen. Is there going to be any sort of lighting through the chair attached to these that'll illuminate inside of the Portland U's? Because depending on where they are placed, it could be very dark. The street light may be out, so you may not have any illumination around these units depending on where they're placed. Through the chair.
Through the chair to the councilman, these are tied into the electrical grid, so there is lighting on the exterior and interior. It's also tied into the grid because there is a heating coil in it, so it doesn't freeze in the winter. So that's why it needs to be tied into electricity. Some of these in other cities are solar powered, but given our climate, that's not an option.
Got it. Okay. So they have heat and lights. Okay. All right. Well, Mr. Chair, what I'll say is that supported of the concept here. However, there's many unknowns that I think that we need to consider as we move this forward. And I would recommend that the administration comes back to us before enter into any financial agreements for construction, maintenance, and upkeep of these without council authorization prior to, not afterwards, prior to moving forward with these Portland loos. So that'll be all, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Harrison. Appreciate your line of questioning. Councilman Danny Kelly.
Thank you, to the chair. Thank you. This, a lot of the questions that I scribbled down have been answered. This is a great thing we're doing, but I'm just a little curious now. Columbus said the one in front of the Capitol serves 600 people. I don't really exactly, if you know how many they have, how long they've been doing it, but some of the things that Councilman Harrison brought up, unfortunately, are true. You know, I'm looking at this. Well, when I started in construction, they were called redheads in the 70s. But this is, it's open, you know, so what if it's raining? What if it's snowing when it's going all summer? Maybe we could look at where we're placing them to put them where there's already a camera in place to monitor. Just a little concerned about maybe, you know, for lack of a better word, sometimes destruction between the evening hours and the morning hours. Not so that everybody has availability to use them, Emily, but that they're used for what they're used for. I'd also, once we roll these out, this is a pilot program. I mean, I have a lot of, in Halloran Park, I've got a tent right in the middle of the gazebo. You know, I mean, Chair Bishop is correct. There's many places in the cities that could use this, and I understand this, but in Columbus, how are they maintaining, observing this? Do they have cameras? What are the police doing if somebody just shuts the door? I imagine they lock and they just don't leave, or they're sleeping or passed out or something. Do you have any criteria on how this has been rolled out there, how it's been going, what they've done with some of the problems that have come up that we will likely face?
Sure, to the councilman through the chair. Columbus installed these in the spring, so around St. Patrick's Day. They leapfrogged us on this project. Their downtown special improvement district does maintain the units. They lock them at night. And the police all have master keys for these, so anybody can get into them at any time if they see an issue. But I believe it's 8 or 9 o'clock that they lock the unit, and then it doesn't reopen until 6 in the morning. It is not heated per se, like climate controlled. The plumbing is heated, so people are not inclined to sleep in them because it's just not comfortable. And I don't know, I apologize for being delayed in coming here, but we had a pilot project with this with 10 porta potties during COVID, and we didn't encounter anybody sleeping in them. In fact, we left them unlocked 24 hours a day, and we didn't have any issues. So part of that porta potty project for 2 years was sort of a pilot project of this to show that we didn't have the safety concerns that we thought we were going to have when we've had this community conversation before.
Okay, thank you. Through the chair, do we know if we are going to lock ours? It seems like ours are open 24/7.
That's a conversation for operations.
Okay. And through the chair, who's the operations? Who's the head of the operation? Who's the point person for operations?
Through the chair to the council members. So that would be a discussion we'd have to have with Downtown Cleveland, Inc., as well as operations, meaning Public Works and our public safety folks.
Okay. Well, through the chair to the group. I'd like that to be looked at. I want it done right, and if it's working in Columbus, I don't see any reason for us to try and jumpstart it more than they're doing. If they're doing it and it's being done right, because this is something that's, plenty of times you have to get in a car and drive somewhere with your kids, I mean, so I believe this is a great thing to do. I believe it'll help our souls that haven't got any place to live at the moment. But I just would Councilman Harrison reiterate some of the problems that we may have if we have a city that's doing it, seems to be doing it right, and Emily's here, she understands. I'd like us to just look at it pretty good so that we don't have any problems rolling it out, if you would, please. And very supportive of this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Kelly. Councilman Joe Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm looking at it, trying to capture the design. I wish we had maybe what it looks like on the inside. I see the outside. Do we have? That's all you got? Because I couldn't see that really well. What it really fundamentally looks like, how it functions. And I presume that this one here that you're showing us now, it just has a toilet. Do you have unirolls in there where you can have both? You have the. Could you look at doing something like that? Because you have the porta potties that have both the uniroll and the sit-down toilet. Do you have anything like that in your system, or you're looking to innovate?
To the councilman through the chair, I don't believe the Portland Lube makes a unit like that. These are just standard off the shelf that we bought, except for the baby changing table and the hand washing station on the outside. Those were the options that we added, but I don't believe they have it. Part of it also is doing the ADA compliance so that there's enough room for a wheelchair to turn around.
I see. So the only reason why I said it because a lot of times when I go into using porta potties, if they don't have a uniroll, unfortunately, the toilet area has to be cleaned up before you can use it. And so it's just a thought, that could be delivered to the company as some possibility, of putting that in there. What we're talking about is installation of 4 of these at the downtown location. Do you know where you are going to put these locations?
Through the chair to the council members, so the county is taking one of them and they're installing it at their Virgil E. Brown Neighborhood Services on Payne and East 18th Street. And then the city, what the legislation before you is for the city to accept the donation for 3, 2 of which would be in Canal Basin Park. There is a future construction project that will be happening for the park. And then there is one intended to be in Park Plaza that we're still doing due diligence on.
So where is it located?
Canal Basin Park is in the Flats on the Columbus Peninsula, and then Perk Park is in Chester and East 12th Street.
I see. So we wouldn't have any location in their actual downtown area?
I would consider Chester and East 12th Street the downtown area, as well as the Payne and East 18th Street.
I see.
The downtown area.
Well, Anthony Harrison asked some really good questions, and he really covered a gamut of some of what I was concerned with in terms of maintenance. So the company that is going to be installing will be maintaining them, or will it be the city of Cleveland doing the maintenance?
So the city of Cleveland would rely on our partners at Downtown Cleveland, Inc. to do the operations day to day for the cleaning of these. And I will mention that there is a hose actually that in the back of the unit that just comes out, and you just wrap it around and spray it down. And it is very easy to clean, very easy to maintain. It is stainless steel and it's graffiti proof. So there are many aspects to this particular unit that is built for cities, and they have tested it many times in their own city and other places.
I see. It seems like you're already in a number of cities throughout the United States of America right now. Do you have some of the issues that those cities have had to endure? And is there more than in some cities? I guess what are your 2 top cities that have a lot of these porta potties? And if so, who are they? And then how many porta potty systems do they have?
So to the councilman through the chair, just to be clear, I do not work for the company that has the Portland. I'm the executive director of the Community Development Corporation Campus District. However, in a previous job, I did set up downtown management districts throughout the country. Probably one of the largest cities is Portland because they designed it. The other would be Houston and Austin. Austin installed these because of South by Southwest. They were tired of putting in the porta potties. Yes, there can be some issues at times. Sometimes, like Columbus has decided to lock theirs at given times, but from a maintenance perspective, they are almost maintenance free because they are just so utilitarian, and they are, to the director's point, all stainless steel. An ambassador who is servicing these can just open up the utility locker in the back, pull out the pressure washing hose, and blast it down. That's all it's required to do this. I did want to mention, in case it wasn't brought up previously, they can also be wrapped, vinylly wrapped, so they can become public art pieces should the city decide to do that. But really, most cities, unless they have built structures like Detroit has along the riverfront with 10, 12 toilets in them, most cities are going with the Portland Loo because of its just utilitarian and maintenance, lack of maintenance thereof.
I see. And then the next question I would have for Mr. Laird, Director Laird, would be, have you had a chance to really go into it and take a look at what this is all about? And the reason why I asked that is because, I was up at Garfield Park, and they have constructed new restroom facilities at the top part, which is really nice. And, I'm desiring to have those kind of same amenities at Caruso Park, which is one of our larger parks that we use a lot. have we maybe thought or considered this as a potential possibility to be placed in some of our parks?
So through the chair to the councilman, no, we have not up to this point. And there's maintenance and safety were our main reasons why. But this is more a cooperative effort where we have partners. Our thought was if we had to do it ourselves in-house, the capacity, staffing, we weren't sure if we could handle it. But this, because it seems more of a cooperative with working with partners, this is probably a more realistic approach. So now we can, I would have to defer that to the new director of parks, Director Nichols, if she wants to expand that and move it forward. But I would just say on our end, no, we had not, and that was the reason why.
So one of the things I would be interested, in exploring, because it's an issue in our community. A lot of times we have, and I guess the porta potty johns are okay, but aesthetically this does look good, and it seems, not to be a really costly scenario. Is to have a place for people who use our parks, because that's been a big issue in our community where they don't have anywhere to go and then they have to go. Mm-hmm. And so if we had, Mr. Chairman, I'm not saying that this in lieu is what we would go with, mm-hmm. but just wanted to put it on your radar screen that if it is an issue, Mr. Chairman, to the director, that I'm willing to work with my local development corporation to see how they could work to maintain a location and make sure it's safe and secure. At least pilot maybe over at Caruso Park, something along this line, if not building a facility. So I know building a facility would probably be a lot more costlier to do. But if this is a way we could potentially do it in our parks, I think that our people deserve to have that. I am concerned about all the other safety scenarios and issues. And Mr. Chairman, to the director, when we look at other cities, I wonder if we could get more information on how these facilities have fared in other communities, because having that information will give us a blueprint of how to operate these facilities. What are the major concerns? What issues are they having? Are they being vandalized? Is there issues of attacks or violence in these facilities after hours? All those things are important. So, certainly I would love to, work with you to see somewhere down the road how we might be able to put something as relates to a facility, a restroom facility, at least 2 of our 7 parks.
Absolutely.
And I yield, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank my colleague because he was so thorough. He just took all of my questions and did a good job, Mr. Harrison. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilman Jones. Councilman Kelly.
Just out of curiosity, there's no cost to us for these. What does one of these cost,
To the councilman, through the chair, $145,000 apiece.
Okay, thank you.
Cost.
All right, Councilman Starr.
Hey, Chairman, thank you. Just from the discussion that I'm hearing from my colleagues, I think it's a consensus that we should possibly not move forward as of today with this. We wanted to possibly get the maintenance, construction costs, water costs, and also utilities to get the understanding of what we're doing. I did hear my colleague, Councilman Kelly, mention that if Columbus is moving forward and they're doing it and we're still getting some studies, I think we just need a little bit more information before we could possibly move this into a next committee or pass it out to this committee, because we don't want to look up and say, hey, we received this donation, but then we did not understand the actual total amount as far as the water cost, the maintenance cost, which then becomes a burden on the city, and then we have to figure it out. So I think we need to get a little bit more information to move forward. And then also in the future, I believe this should go to utilities as well to make sure we have all that component.
Okay. All right, thank you, Councilman Starr. Ordinance number,
For installation. Okay.
you have a comment?
May I respond to the council member?
Yes.
Okay. So we do have the 2020 installation costs for all 4 of the Portland loos, and we believe that cost was a little over $100,000 for all 4. And, again, the two would be in Canal Basin Park, and that would be part of a larger construction project for the park itself and could be integrated into that particular project. That would leave, if Perk Plaza continues to move forward, one in Perk Plaza for installation.
Okay. Hold on, Councilman. Councilman Jones.
Thank you,
You
Mr.
have
Chairman.
a comment?
Yeah. The 100, how much did you say per unit cost?
145.
That's a lot of money. It's like building a house. So, did the director want to respond, Mr. Chairman, to director? I just thought 145,000, wow. So, and I'd be interested in knowing how much, I'm going to go ask how much they built that facility in Garfield. Because 145,000 is like building a little house or 2 or 3 garages. So, why is it so expensive, Mr. Chairman?
To the councilman through the chair, when we purchased these, they were $125,000, and then stainless steel prices skyrocketed during COVID, so it went up substantially. I don't know what it costs to manufacture them. I mean, this was the list price on the website when we purchased them, and we received the CARES Act funding through the Cleveland Foundation to get these. I will say we were spending more money on the porta potties during COVID than to purchase these. That was the impetus for buying these, because Ohio City and Campus District were realizing we were spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a year for porta potties as opposed to actual toilets.
I see. And then how many porta potty facilities, Mr. Chairman, to the distinguished gentleman, that were you?
To the councilman through the chair, we had 10 porta potties out throughout Ohio City Campus District and downtown during COVID.
I see. No further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Jones. All right, ordinance number 1062. We're going to hold ordinance number 1062 until we get more information. Councilman Starr? All right, we're going to hold ordinance number 1062, 2024. All right. Is there any other questions? Seeing no further questions, the Municipal Service and Properties Committee is hereby adjourned.